One of the things that I've learned interviewing type 1 diabetics is how incredibly challenging it is to manage your blood sugar and your insulin levels. Um, so I know you have departed from the mainstream in terms of what type 1 diabetics can do to make the whole process of managing their blood sugar and their insulin levels more manageable. Can you unpack that a little bit?
They make it out when you're first diagnosed as if you are diabetic, but you can just ignore your disease, just pretend you're not, take your insulin, eat what you want. For anyone who is not diabetic, we would not recommend, hey, go and eat tons of wheat and tons of pasta and junk food. But this is basically what they tell diabetics who cannot metabolize glucose to just eat whatever they want as if insulin is magically going to solve the problem. We know from experience that insulin does not magically solve the problem. When you are constantly poisoning your body with glucose and more glucose, there's no amount of insulin that can actually deal with that without causing serious issues. Cardiovascular disease, for example, is very common among diabetics. Blindness, neuropathy, nephropathy, all of these are very common. So no amount of insulin they recommend that you take to cover the junk food you're eating is ever going to be the solution for your disease.
All right. So let's dive a little deeper. What do you recommend?
I
I know this is the big coaching that you do, and we're kind of trying to keep this short and sweet, but within those guidelines, let's talk about it.
So what I recommend, I mean, type 1 diabetes is probably the only disease I haven't been able to think of another disease that needs hourly management by the person who has the disease. So it's probably the only disease out there that is not going to be managed well if you visit your doctor once a year, once every 6 months, and then they put your dose up or they just decrease your dose or change your, I don't know, blood pressure medication to another brand or another form, and then say, that's it, I'll see you in six months. A type 1 diabetic has to manage their own blood sugar because their endo's not living with them full time. Their endo's not going to be able to make hourly decisions for them. The nutritionist or the diabetes nurse or the diabetes dietitian is not going to be able to make those decisions for you. So my passion and mission has been to empower type 1 diabetics with the confidence, with the right knowledge, so that they can manage their disease. Because I'll tell you, Jack, it is a disease that's going to require thorough management, even on an hourly basis.
So let's talk about the way type 1 diabetics are traditionally told they can live and compare that to the more effective choices that you've learned to make for yourself and for your clients, coach your clients to make.
So
Compare those.
traditionally, they're told just eat the carbohydrates, anything you want, basically. Don't limit anything and just take that set amount of insulin to cover your carbohydrates. But we know that doesn't work. It doesn't work with the majority of type 1s. So my approach is to teach people how to use insulin smartly, because insulin is a potent drug.
Yeah.
And this is why in this country too, in the US, you cannot walk into a pharmacy and buy insulin without a prescription from your doctor. It's the same in the UK, by the way, not in Canada for some reason, because I was in Canada and you could just go in and buy insulin, which I welcome, or part of me welcomes that. We should be able, because it is a life-saving drug. But let's face it, it's also a potent drug if not
Yeah.
used properly. So type 1 diabetics, my mission is to teach diabetics about the differences between different insulin types and how to combine them perhaps to optimize their management, how to use insulin smartly so that they are not experiencing dangerously high blood sugars or dangerously low blood sugars. It all comes down to your diet, obviously, minimizing those carbohydrates and the junk foods or eliminating them completely. Diet makes a big difference on blood sugars. But even on the best diet, you still have to take insulin. You have to take insulin for protein. You have to take insulin to cover your fat. So even if you're not eating any carbs, not even vegetables or salads or roasted cauliflower, you're not eating any vegetables, you still need insulin. And you still need to know how much to take. You still need to know what time to take it and what type of insulin to take to cover your food and your background or basal insulin. So that's a lot of teaching. That's a lot of learning for someone
Isn't that
who's
something
really
they're taught?
no, but I was never taught that. Completely never. I had to research and find out and talk to other type 1s in our community, and we learn from each other. And of course, I have to give credit to Dr. Bernstein, who wrote the book Diabetes Solution, because there's a lot of wisdom in there. So we figured out a better way to manage blood sugars, and this is what I want to teach people.